right, joined now by Brandon Duenas, who is the host of AZ Sports Zone and does Locked On Suns and is at Bright Side of the Sun. Really appreciate you taking the time. Let's talk about the Phoenix Suns. Let's talk about a team that for a while it didn't look as healthy as expected. We actually talked probably about 3-4 weeks ago or so about, hey, man, things have not been as good as might have envisioned at the beginning. And then they rattle off 7 in a row and they get Booker back healthy, and he rolls an ankle ultimately just recently, but it has felt like the Suns have kind of hit a turning point here at this part of the season. Uh, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, they've been awesome when they play.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, I remember I was on the show and I was telling you I was not panicking at the time, and this is when things were stocks were at a low at that point. They've definitely kind of righted the ship. A lot of that has to do with Booker coming back. Obviously, he and Durant are the engines that drive this team, and whenever they have one of the two without Beal, it's tough to win games in this league. Like, you need help, and a lot of their problems are just kind of fixed immediately by Booker returning, because that in turn, just the domino effect of all the role players kind of returning to closer to what their role is supposed to be. I think that helped as well. There's just so many factors when a star returns like that. Like, you see that with any team, really. Like, I mean, we all saw how important Jamal Murray was for the Nuggets when he came back. It's not all just about that one player. It's about the domino effect that I think it has on the rest of the roster. So, yeah, I mean, obviously having Booker back and him and Durant are playing at an unreal level this season. It's been really fun to watch. Obviously, all the injuries and whatnot have added to the chaos, but it's looking like we're finally starting to hit a stride right now.
12-8 overall, 8-2 in the last 10 games. We're recording this before the in-season tournament game on Tuesday night, so we'll see what happens with everything that goes on. But 8th in net rating, 8th in offensive rating, 17th in defensive rating on cleaning the glass. A little bit better on the defensive numbers than I kind of expected here. What do you think's gone into that during this stretch, and how have they sort of rounded into form on that end, at least a little bit better than maybe some others thought?
Yeah, so I think it's a few things. I think Vogel should get some credit. I think Durant's really played. He's impressed me defensively. I mean, he's not really someone that's going to do a lot of on ball or, like, chase around the best player 24/7, but he can definitely to the weak side rim protection, his ability to close out and make contest tough shots, and just having 2 7-footers on the court at all times, pretty much. Nurkic, I'm not going to get into too much because I still have some concerns about him defensively in a playoff setting, but I think he tries. He definitely tries on that end, and that's all you can really ask for at that point. But I think the main identity defensively starts with Jordan Goodwin and Josh Okogie, Nasir Little, Drew Eubanks, just these energy guys that just go nonstop. They're just like Energizer bunnies, and they're grabbing every offensive rebound. They're diving on the floor. They're generating deflections, just picking up full court. So I think that combination has kind of helped give them a little bit of a boost defensively. So yeah, it's just kind of a mix of Vogel and I think just role players stepping up and knowing that if they want to play, they have to defend.
Now, with 3 stars, obviously this is a little bit different, and we'll have a different conversation about the rotation at that point. But only 3 games so far for Bradley Beal. Are you sounding any alarm bells yet for the health? Like, what's been going on lately?
Yes, it's not good. Like, whenever there's just a very loose timetable, I feel like I thought they probably rushed him back a little bit sooner than they should have. These backs are very tricky, and you don't want to. And I think they kind of learned their lesson from that. So that's why they've been kind of vague. But I do think we will see him in December at some point. It's just a matter of when. And I think they're just going to be really careful with his minutes. It's similar to Booker in a way, where he tried to rush back with his foot injury and just Book being Book would not want to get subbed out of the game. He wanted to play 40 minutes and, just especially in those close games. So sometimes you have to protect players from themselves. And I think we'll see him back here soon. But if he doesn't return this calendar year, then I'll definitely hit the panic button after that.
Yeah, because when you put as much money as you do into that trio, into those lineups, that's turning the salaries for Ayton and Chris Paul into that third star. Obviously, it didn't really happen in that order, but basically, it's been very fascinating to see how that has evolved, and we haven't really been able to see what the ultimate end goal is with this team yet. So, uh, without getting into too much detail, because I think it's hard even to talk about what Beal's going to look like until he comes back. Uh, you mentioned the role players, and I think that was an interesting point where you can have guys like Jordan Goodwin and Drew Eubanks and Nasir Little and Keita Bates-Diop and Yuta Watanabe and different players. I know that some of those guys you didn't mention, but and are now kind of stuck to the bench.
Mm-hmm.
But there are different guys that you can mix and match and provide different combinations. So I'm curious, like when those three guys come back, what combinations are you looking forward to the most?
I think just having the luxury of being able to have two of your big three on the court pretty much at all times, just the staggering and some of the floor spacing lineups specifically, like just having, Beal and then like Grayson Allen or Eric Gordon with Booker and Durant, just ultimate floor spacing lineups to give them more space to operate. And with Nurkic's passing ability, like there's some really fun offenses you could throw out there that I think are going to be tough to stop. But then at the same time, you have all these energy guys that just play their role to a T, like a Goodwin or a Kogi or Bates Diop that you could surround the big three with. They're not going to need the ball to really make an impact. So I think there's a lot of fun combinations they could do. And it's kind of funny. Like it's turned into the Jordan Goodwin trade at this point. It's not the Beal trade. He was, it was a Goodwin deal. And same with Grayson Allen and the Ayton Nurkic trade. Allen's been awesome. So yeah, I think a lot of these role guys, like they're, with Beal coming back, they're definitely going to not have as much responsibility, but that's for the best. I think it just simplifies their role. Just play hard, defend, hit open shots. You're going to, be an afterthought of the opponent's defense for the most part, just because of how much like attention Booker, Durant, and Beal will get. So I think it's going to really open things up for them and just kind of enhance what we've seen already. If we get to see it, it's still a giant if. We don't know if we'll ever see the big three, but hopefully one day we will.
Well, the good news is that Eric Gordon has been stepping up really well. Like he has been unbelievable to watch, and like he's taking 7 threes a game, making 41% of them. Like just having that spacing, having somebody who can do some things on the offensive end, even when those three aren't out there all at once or even at all, is just really, really valuable. Just one of the best ads of the offseason for any team for sure. No, I'm still a fan of this team. I still think that this team is going to challenge Denver at the top of the West. I don't think that anything I've seen so far really changes that. Those two teams, they faced off against each other last Friday. Close matchup, obviously without Murray and Gordon, and then Booker and Beal. It's going to be a completely different matchup when those teams face again. But I'm looking forward to seeing what it looks like at that point. The defensive numbers, we'll touch on that before we get to the IST. I'm looking at the defensive numbers, they look solid. Like it looks like those are sustainable numbers. And I was surprised when I thought that. I was thinking, okay, maybe I'm going to find some shooting variance here. Maybe I'm going to find some abnormal numbers from like, oh, they're not fouling at all or something like that. No, it's been just pretty solid defense. And then like the actual shooting luck hasn't really existed that much. So what do you think's gone into that other than just the energy guys? Is there something that Frank Vogel's implementing?
Yeah, I think it's just how everyone just seems to be connected and like on the same page, which is obviously essential for any defense. But with a team with this much turnover, you'd think they'd struggle a little bit on that end with communicating and learning how to play off one another defensively. But I feel like they've done a good job of just embracing in the storm and like weathering the storm with when teams go on certain offensive runs. Sorry, losing my voice here, but
you're good.
It looks like but yeah, so I don't know. I think they've just done a good job of being composed on that end for the most part, and they lead the NBA in blocks per game. So the rim protection's been there. They're altering shots. Like I think just having the size and switchability and just dogs like Kogi, Goodwin, and Little, like those three specifically, I think really up the energy, and it's contagious. Like you'll see. Just the little things they do, I think that maybe sometimes the numbers don't even pick up on in the box score, but overall, I think just the defensive rating when they're on the court is just it's better. And I think Vogel gets a lot of credit as well, just for some of the system. Like it's mostly matchup dependent too. Like that's the one thing that Monty would struggle with a little bit. I think he would keep his the same game plan almost, like for certain teams that it's just not going to translate as well, or he'd be late to adjust. Whereas Vogel's been very quick to adapt to who he's playing and make adjustments before and be proactive. So that's another thing. I think the coaching staff has done a great job. The players are hungry. They know they have to earn minutes now with all these injuries. So that's also another combination.
I wonder if that changes a little bit once the stars all get healthy, just because you're going to want those guys out there. And there's only so much like positional flexibility that you have when you've got Booker and Beal out there at the same time. So like they could go with another defensive guard, but it makes you smaller. Or they could go with a defensive wing to kind of pair with Durant in the front court, but that leaves the point of attack guys at a little bit of a disadvantage. So I wonder if that kind of changes once they try to develop some chemistry. But I mean, if you're having 130 offensive rating in those minutes, then it probably doesn't matter as much. So there's something to be said for that too. Last thing here. Phoenix, we're going to be recording this. The audio is coming out on Tuesday, and then we're seeing this Tuesday night. The video will not be coming out until Wednesday. But I just wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about the Suns versus the Lakers if you had an opportunity to, and whether you think the Suns can make it all the way to the finals.
Yeah, so first off, the game tonight was awesome. The Pacers-Celtics game was great. I think the end-season tournament's been a massive win. I was a little skeptical. Thought it was just a money grab coming into the season. I was open to having my mind changed, and it's 100% been changed. So Adam Silver, good job. I think the Suns definitely have a shot. I feel pretty confident about them beating the Lakers, honestly. I think some Lakers fans are a little cocky over there with their 2 wins early in the season with no Booker or Beal. I think we match up pretty well with them. So I'll just go on a limb and say the Suns are going to smack the Lakers tomorrow. The Kings, I think, are going to beat the Pelicans. So my prediction, Suns, Kings. I think the Kings will beat the Suns, and it'll be a Kings-Pacers final. Halliburton, Sabonis, just whoever wins that wins the trade. That's how it'll be settled. So that's my prediction.
I love it. That's amazing. And I'm not going to lie, man. The Kings are so fun, and the Pacers are so fun. That would be so good for the NBA. Just like
really
2 mid-market, like small market kind of teams having fun players. This is exactly what that moment is about, because neither of them's probably making it to the finals. So this is exactly what the mid-season tournament should be about. So really, really exciting stuff. Any parting thoughts on Phoenix before we get out of here?
Nothing really. Just, I mean, at this point, everyone just kind of is waiting to see what the big 3 looks like. And for several reasons, like you mentioned, some of them with the lineup stuff and just seeing what their identity looks like. So I think at this point, it's just a waiting game. Just got to be patient. That's something all Suns fans have had to deal with this entire season. It's been frustrating, but, hopefully we'll get to see the final product soon.
We will see what happens. He is Brandon Duenas, AZ Sports Zone. Make sure to go check out his work at Bright Side of the Sun, as well as for Locked On Suns. Brandon, really appreciate you taking the time, man. We'll talk in 6 weeks, all right?
Sounds good, man. Thanks for having me.